Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, and there's James Duthie. JD?
I would have worn a jacket for you, but I locked myself out of my dressing room halfway through dressing.
Uh-oh.
That happens.
How do you get back in there?
I have to go to security just before I ran into your studio and said, can you let me back into my dressing room?
Okay.
So,
Did they look at you like, really?
yeah, kind of. They look like, you have a dressing room? It's not really a dressing room. It's like a closet with my clothes. But
Well, I guarantee you your dressing room is probably in better shape than somebody else's on this.
No. I told you guys. When I was a Moose, the car was a mess. Everything was a mess. Dressing room a mess. Now everything's immaculate.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
what's the correlation between not being a Moose and being organized?
Because when you're a fat slob, you just, I just didn't
pig.
care about it. Yeah.
You wanna be
if
a
my
pig.
truck was a mess, it took me a month to clean it. I'd look at it. You guys saw the back of my truck. It was
Yeah.
disgusting.
It's an apartment.
I'm not sure I'm
It's a
buying
storage bin.
the locker room thing, dude.
I'm not buying it either because
I don't
I
think
could
so.
walk by and do a
You
drive.
have an hour to get down to the Scotiabank Arena. Why don't you make a pit stop and have a look?
I will. I'll pop in there.
Do it.
You used the term immaculate.
Yeah. That might be.
When you used to walk by there, it would just be a pile of shirts and ties and suits just in a pile.
It was
like
wild.
a giant. It looked like a laundry pile.
It
but
was
that
wild.
was
It was
the
a
actual
wild
wardrobe
scene.
room.
Yes, there was.
Because I would go in, I would ask him, like, I got to get changed. Do you mind if I
Yeah.
pop in there? Yeah, go on in there. I'd walk in
There
there,
are
and
things
I
in
was
there. Yeah.
flabbergasted.
It is.
There were
You would
golf
think-
balls, dude. You had like Pro Vs and TPXs and
You would
golf
think a
tees.
normal person would say, actually, you're not going in there.
Don't you dare lay eyes on that. No,
Yeah.
it's under
There's
renovation.
an iron that hasn't been used. Like, it's honestly a wild scene you have going on.
I
there.
totally invite you for just
Okay.
a little handshake, hello, and have
All
a
right.
peek.
And
Good to
maybe
see.
a posting of the shot.
I think that
little
I'll
shot
ask
to
you if
post.
that's okay to be posted.
Totally
I'll post it on
okay.
socials. Okay, on my social media accounts, Instagram, Twitter, everything will be posted later.
For you.
Jimmy, you got to answer this. We started out the show. Which game on the weekend kind of captivated you more? Was it the Dallas game, or was it the Jets game last night?
If you, the entirety of it was the Dallas game, just because the hockey in that entire series I thought was spectacular. But if you were to ask me which I'll remember more, it's the Jets game, because that one was over to me. I never thought the Dallas Colorado was over, and the Jets thing, I have a couple of Jets friends who I reverse jinxed, because at 3 minutes left, when they had nothing going, like they had nothing going
Feathers.
at all.
Feathers.
And I was like, man, this is a tough one. Sorry, guys. You know, man, I can't imagine being Hellebuck. You're going to win the Vezina, maybe win the Hart, and still have the most miserable summer of your life. Imagine what that's like. And they were coming back, yeah, it's a tough one. And then, boom. Just
It was crazy, man. Like
one of the craziest things I've seen in hockey, I think.
Yeah.
Like 2 seconds left, and I know there was an argument. I don't know if you guys talked about it. I don't think he meant to pass it. I think he kind of fanned on it halfway.
You're talking Kyle Connor on the tying
shot
goal.
that ended up getting to Perfetti.
I think it was just like, I got to get this
Just
somewhere.
whack the thing
I,
as hard
I
as
think
they
he
can.
took a one-timer as hard as he could towards the net, and it went right in that area.
That's what I thought.
Perfetti
That's
skated
what I
into
thought
it.
as
But
well.
you know, the beauty of it, though, Ehlers, he fans on it, and then he goes, I got to zip this across. And Connor is on his back foot, and he turns and fires this. And
You know what's crazy? The goal light goes off because it's 1.6. You can't hit the button quick enough to stop the clock.
right.
So, like, if you watch it from the other view, the goal light is going, but I think it's like the end of the period. Like, it's not the
You
goal
mean
light.
the light that says game over?
Yes,
basically.
like
the
it's
green
like
light.
yes, it's like this game is over now. And anyway, it was just an incredible scene last night.
outrageous stuff.
The video, as much as the video of watching the Jets fans is unbelievable, I went down a rabbit hole of about 15 minutes of watching Blues fans react, and it was almost more fascinating and tortuous. Can you imagine?
Is it a choke in your opinion?
By the Blues?
Yeah, by the Blues.
Absolutely. Come
So-
on, man. You got to close that out.
Okay, I'm just saying an 8 seed down 2-0 and
Dude,
3-2
I don't
in the
care.
series.
I don't care. You're up 3-1 with 2:55 left or whatever the hell the clock was.
Yeah.
You got to find a way.
I
to
don't
not,
think so. I think it's just hockey. like weird stuff happens in hockey.
Well, you just give a built-in excuse to every team that chokes a lead up.
We'd probably call
hockey.
it a choke if it was a Canadian team.
Yeah, exactly. If that was the Leafs that coughed that one up and you went to me, what happened? I'm just going to say, hockey.
Can you imagine if
2
that
minutes
was the
left
Leafs?
and you're up 3-1.
You imagine if the Leafs were the Blues.
Oh, don't even.
And you looked at me and said, "Oh, dog, what happened?" And I went,
That's
"Just
hockey."
hockey."
You're right.
I
You're
think
right.
there were
You're
mistakes made on that empty net because St. Louis had opportunities to chew that clock down, and they did.
Yes.
Didn't they fire one right over?
They did.
Yeah, they did.
Buchnevich fired the length of the ice over the net. He could have cross-cornered it into the neutral zone for a foot race because I do believe Thomas was skating in that direction.
Yeah, you're right.
If he chips it into the neutral zone for a foot race,
Probably over.
that puck doesn't come back in the neutral.
It's probably one of those things where there's 4 or 5 or 6 different moments there where one little thing has to happen and it's over.
But in the end, this is where I would agree with you. It's just hockey because it's like we can all go back and dissect it and go, you could have done this, should have done this, could have got a save. Falk misses that one-timer by 2 inches as far as with his stick in the lane. There's things that were missed assignments, really, because a lot of times on plays like this, you collapse to the middle. We see teams that don't let that puck come back through, or guys are in the lane blocking it. Like it seemed like maybe, and I know it's lazy to say, but like the hockey gods lined up, and it was like they just happened to get, it happened to work out perfectly. But there are things. We talked about it before the show. Quentin Byfield, he gets that puck out against the Edmonton Oilers. They go down 3-1, right?
Yeah, well, Rob Blake is possibly still running the show in L.A.
Like
literally, Rob Blake is no longer running the show in L.A. You don't want to. It's not just Quentin Byfield.
No,
clearly,
it's a challenge.
But not on Quentin Byfield that got
was
Rob
a
Blake
soul-sucking
fired.
moment.
But
Yes.
it's one play that you're right. They win. They probably
different.
win that series.
It's just different, right? Because now you're down 3-1. Now you're really chasing it. Like in the end, there are things like Evan Bouchard bats the puck out of the air, like he's cheats
and then
in
scores the
and
goal.
then scores. Like if he misses the net on that one timer, a 95-mile-an-hour slap shot, they lose. Like it happens. But last night, like that Perfetti, like that redirect, if Bennington had any luck, that hits the crossbar.
It could have hit the crossbar.
glass.
It could absolutely. It could
I'm trying to think of a weekend that was a better commercial for hockey in the last like
Four
10
Nations
10 years.
face-off.
Okay, you're right. That's how quickly
He was
we're
going back
forgetting.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
This
say
is
NHL.
different.
A better advertisement for the NHL. I guess Four Nations would be that as well.
I totally
But you know
agree.
what I'm saying.
Yes.
I just to have 2 games like that as the only 2 game 7s be that spectacular. I don't remember a scenario like that.
Well, and I think to use the Four Nations again as a kind of barometer, you look at the NBA. Remember that weekend? People are goofing on the NBA and the All-Star game. They had 2 game 7s, and they were awful games.
Yeah.
Like the Clippers-Denver game was horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
That was up against the Dallas game on Saturday. And last night, the Warriors were mostly in control the whole night.
the entire game.
Yeah, the entire game. So it was like comparing and contrasting. You're like, look at over here. This is nothing.
Wasn't
and over
double
here,
overtime. It
not
wasn't-
even
yeah.
close. And
Yeah.
in the NHL, it was just bedlam. And then you reset, and then we got game 1 of the second round already tonight.
The basketball fans would say that there's an inverse relationship with hockey where the NHL, the first round is always the best, and the hockey gets worse as it goes along because the teams get worn down, and the NBA, the first round always sucks, and usually by the finals you get the best basketball. Not always the case. Somewhat
Make that
true
argument.
sometimes. I
Yep.
think generally the NHL first round is 100 times better almost every year than basketball's first round.
Yes.
We'll see what happens the rest. I mean, I think we always love the hockey more no matter what. But there is something to be said that the second and third round, there sometimes is a bit of a nosedive with drama. We'll see.
Yeah.
Do you buy into the odds are what they are, that the Leafs are the biggest underdog in the second round? Of all the matchups, we got 4 series, and Leafs beating Florida is the most far-fetched that you can think of all the other combinations.
I don't think so. I mean, on paper it shouldn't be because they won the division and talent level there, and I think they're a grittier team than they've been in the past. I think it's kind of equal, frankly. Like, I think Carolina Washington.
I think that's a coin
Vegas-
flip series.
Vegas, Edmonton.
Yeah.
I would have said Vegas should be favored, but the way Edmonton looked in the last couple of games, Dallas, Winnipeg. Yeah, I suppose you can make that argument, but I don't think that they're. I think it's like if you were to put odds on it, I'd put it at 60-40 Florida. I don't think it's 75-25 or
No,
your
I agree
percentages
with you.
that you do. I think the Leafs are closer than a lot of people give them credit for.
Yeah.
But
I
you
think
said
so,
it
too.
in the 4 o'clock hour too. It's the history and what Florida's the reigning champion, and the Leafs don't have a history in 23 years to get there. Where Vegas, Edmonton, you watched Edmonton and Vegas has won a cup. Winnipeg would be an interesting one, but wait, they won the President's Trophy.
Right. But
So-
they get the same history, and Hellebuck, who knows what you're going to get.
Right.
So you can spin it, in different ways. Even Dallas, it was a great series, but they had to storm back. Like
Right.
Colorado finds a way to just close that, and they're out, and Colorado's into the next round. So everyone's kind of dealing with something, with the exception of, I would say, the teams in the East, because Florida got through in 5, Carolina in 5, Washington in 5. But the fact that the Leafs have home ice and they're healthy, this is as good of an opportunity as you're going to get. Yes, it's a tough challenge. Florida's a very good team. You know what they're going to bring. But if you can't get through this, considering what you have leading up to it,
Well, it's
the ultimate go up, put up or shut up moment for the Leafs.
You just never know till you see it. I mean, 2 years ago, the Leafs were, I think we considered them solid favorites in that
Over
series,
Florida,
right?
for sure.
Florida
Heavy
was
almost.
this
Yes.
upstart underdog who just upset Boston, and it felt like a freakish series that they upset Boston, and everybody's chanting, "We want Florida."
They limped in that year in the final day of the season.
And then when the series was over, you were like, "Oh, this is what Florida is." We never saw that. So, I think from the Toronto perspective, you have to hope that the rest of the world sees the same way. That this series ends and Toronto wins, and you go, "Oh, these are new Leafs. I didn't see that coming." At some point, does 2 straight finals take a toll on Florida?
I think
Probably
there's
not
an
in the
element
second
to that.
round,
I don't
but
know
there
about
might
the
be.
second round, and because they got through Tampa in 5, I might feel differently if it was like a 7-game brawl.
And you guys like
overtimes
Ekblad and Tkachuk, who really haven't played that much in the last few months.
Right,
really.
exactly. And Ekblad will be out tonight. That's
Yeah.
another big thing. He's serving the last game of that 2-game suspension. It does feel like tonight, for the Leafs, they of all the other 7 teams in the second round, they have to make a statement. In my opinion, game 1, more so than any other.
Does that
team.
mean they have to win, or does that?
I think
mean they
ideally
have to
you win
play-
clearly, but you definitely have to play. I think with the style and with the
Right.
system in mind, that you're portraying. Okay, this is a fight.
If they
we're
kill
here
them on the
for the
forecheck
fight.
and Florida wins 4-1, then
Concerning.
very concerning.
Yeah,
But is it overreaction?
It could be.
I asked because I asked
could be.
leading into this. Win or lose tonight, do you feel like there will be an overreaction?
100%.
But it's just,
I think
because
more
of-
so for a loss than a win. I don't think people are going to freak. If the Leafs win tonight, to their credit, amazing.
I agree.
I don't think people
Too
are going
many
to be
scars
overly
from the last 8
comfortable.
years that no one's going to go Leafs in 5 if they win tonight. But I just think we've learned from the Oilers being down 2-0 and the first 2 games even. You got to win. I say, honestly, it feels weird, but I think a Leaf split is fine in the first 2 games, which is not usually what you say for the home team. But I think in this particular matchup, if the Leafs split the first 2 games and look good, then I think that's okay. That's okay going back to Florida.
And you mentioned the reaction to Florida a couple of years ago, where after they got through that round, you said, "Oh, okay, this is different. They actually are like a team that's capable of doing this." Which category is more likely to change your mind, or not even change your mind, but make you feel more bullish about the overall chances based on the way these categories played in this round? The core 4 and them showing up and elevating.
It feels like a quiz.
It is.
It is.
The defense core, which I think they have their best 6-pack of defensemen in a long, long time, certainly in the Matthews era, or Stolarz.
Sorry, are you saying going into it?
Yeah,
or-
I'm saying if you get through this, what do you think is most likely the reason for it? Do you think it's because the core 4 elevates? Is it because Stolarz stands on his head, or because the defense core, which has been so good, continues
No,
to
I
play
think it's
really
the first
well?
thing, because I think the second and third thing will be fine. I think that the defense...
So you're confident in the goaltending
I'm confident
and
in the defense, and I'm confident in the goaltending. I don't think the goaltending is going to be spectacular, but I think it's going to be good enough, and I think the D is what it is, so I think it still comes back to those guys, no matter what Craig Berube says about it. I still think they have to outplay the likes of Barkov, Tkachuk, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, or whatever. So, I mean, that's a simple way to look at it, but I just think that's still the case.
Yeah.
And I think it'll always kind of be with this team.
Well, and also with every team. Like I was talking about this yesterday. Like, I don't think anyone in Toronto or any Leaf fan is asking more of their best players than any other fan base asks of their best players. Like, no one in Edmonton is like, man, I need Janmark to keep cooking here. Like, no one's saying that. Yes, you got to play well and pull your weight, but it's McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins, and in Vegas it's Eichel and Stone and Pietrangelo and Morrissey. Like, that's what is expected.
You're just expecting them to be
your best
on top
players
of
have
their
to be your
game.
best players.
And what you don't want is
no one's
to
asking
say,
for anything else.
after the game, I didn't even notice that guy.
Yeah.
Because if you do that a bunch of times, you're out.
Right, exactly. Max Domi can't pull you out from this. He can't.
He can have moments.
Yes,
That's
of course
the
he
thing.
can. But the same thing.
Yeah.
If Florida gets through this, it's not because AJ Greer or like that's not the way it goes. It'll be Barkov and Kachuk.
But you can have guys like Cole Perfetti rescued the Jets to an extent. I think that was a bit of a surprise, right?
Yeah.
With Shifley down, so you can have surprise.
He's a top
heroes.
Six player, and he's on the ice with a minute
I
to
know.
go.
That's not a third or fourth liner, but it's still a guy who hadn't really done it on a big stage, stepping up with.
Yeah.
I mean, those two deflections. That first deflection was
unbelievable,
ridiculous,
unbelievable angle, and
it was so perfectly placed. Like it was.
Yeah.
I don't know,
stupid.
man. Like there were some amazing plays, some amazing goals, and even Hellebuck coming. Like I just was so happy for him coming back to life a little bit. Like he just looked different. He looked different in overtime compared to in the first period.
It just looked like mentally, I've been given this sort of second chance to salvage this whole thing, and there's no way I'm going to.
Well, Hayes sparked him with his tweet.
yes, I did. I said
Did he
owes
say-
perfection.
did he say he read
said
it?
Hellebuck owes the Jets' teammates perfection in overtime.
Do you think it was read to him?
I hope
Came
so.
across the ticker in the dress.
I know Scott Arneal follows
whiteboarded?
me. I know Scott Arneal's on Twitter. He's checking things out. I would like to believe that I inspired Connor Hellebuck.
So funny.
I tweeted something out about Mikko Rantanen on Saturday night, too.
Did you?
No.
Are you getting a
Shut up.
reputation as a guy who just fires?
I'm a whisperer, man.
That would be
Do you
hilarious.
feel like
That's the greatest story.
But do you feel good for Rantanen? I mean,
I do.
Yeah, I guess so.
Why wouldn't you?
I don't know.
It's not
I feel like in the back of his mind, he's like, I still want to be in Colorado though. Like this is great. I'm in cool,
Well,
and we're in the second round.
Did you guys see?
I still think he'd rather be on.
Like maybe
the
that
other
was his
team.
thought after the game. Like, why the hell did you guys trade me anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see the handshake line?
Yeah, well, he was mic'd up. It was more just, I love you, bro. I love you, bro.
But like everyone on that Colorado team was like hugging him. Like it was.
Well, they just released a mic'd up version.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't
guess,
seen that
I guess
part.
he was mic'd, and it was just a lot of he hugs you, Shane. I love you, buddy. I'm so happy for you. Let's hang out in the off season. Hugs Landeskog, sort of same thing.
yeah.
So there was a lot of love.
Yeah. Well, as there should be. I mean, the guy put on, and he didn't ask to be traded.
No.
They were negotiating, and then Colorado flipped them. I do wonder what Carolina's thinking watching that play. Like, is Rod Brindamore sitting there saying,
But if he
I
had
could
no-
use that cat in the second round here?
Dude, he was so bad when he was in Carolina.
I understand that.
I don't even think Rod Brindamore saw anything close to
But
that.
did you see your buddy Pete DeBoer, like leaning back in his chair, going, "It takes guys some time." He goes, "When he got here, he didn't." Like Pete had this analogy. He's like, he's a great player. Eventually, we knew it was going to come out. He goes, sometimes you hope it comes out earlier, and he goes, it just took him a while to settle
Did
in.
you
Came out
think
at the right
less
time.
of Rantanen because of the Carolina situation before this, or do you think that was just Carolina's problem?
I would.
He had
when
right-
in doubt, I would blame Carolina.
But would
Carolina
you,
and
would you
blaming
put any
Carolina.
blame on Rantanen?
Oh, I think he's a professional. He
I
didn't
would
play well.
You could no, but if you're in a position to be a UFA and you get traded unbeknownst to you, like without any
Not that
knowledge,
he didn't play well. He just told him, "I'm not re-signing."
No,
you, so don't even
but he
think
also
about it."
didn't play well. Like, yes, he did say, I'm not resigning.
He probably mailed it in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. The human element has to be considered.
Right.
It rocked his world, and he's in Carolina, and he clearly didn't want to be there. But you're also, when you lace your skates up and you go out and play, you're supposed to perform, and he did not for the Carolina Hurricanes.
I still find it bonkers that they didn't want to find that information. I know they wanted to keep that deal on the down low. But to have a guy, like, you got to ask him if he's going to do that. Like,
Yeah.
to give up those assets and just say, no, he just doesn't. He hates it here.
I mean, it
before he
worked
gets
out
it.
beautifully for Dallas. There's no other way to put it. It fell right in their lap, and Stankoven and Picks or whatever going the other way, good for them. And Stankoven's still playing, and Carolina's in the second round. Like, it's not like they folded after they made that deal, but man, it worked out really well for Dallas. Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Marc-Andre Fleury are going to the World Championships.
I bet you there was a couple guys that were asked that said, "Nah, I don't know." They're saying, "Hey, I'm coming."
How do you say no if you're a young guy trying to make the Olympic team and these guys are going?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, that's what it says to me. Like, we got the Olympics. Now, Flower's not going to be in the Olympic team. He's retired. He's done.
Yeah.
This is one last dance for him. Who knows if he'll even play?
the timing and going with your buddies. It's 3 weeks. They're going to bring their families over. The first week, they're
Yeah.
going to drink their faces off with their buddies. And
Still,
then
the
the
one
second
that
2
caught-
weeks, they bring their family.
Like, McKinnon just went through a grind. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm in. Like, that's a
The one that
that's a
caught me
pretty
off guard
cool
was Connor
story.
Bedard, and I don't know, maybe he's dealing with something. But if he indeed said no, that's surprising to me.
Yeah.
I know he didn't get to play a lot last year.
Did
but-
Suzuki say that he was going to have the trainers weigh in or something?
Yeah,
Is that
I've never
cryptic for,
heard
like-
of. I've
was
never
that?
heard of a play. So Nick Suzuki.
He's battling with something apparently, and
Okay.
he said he wants to get verification from their.
That was yes. He said, "I'm not. I can't confirm that I'm going to go over it because I'm waiting on the medical staff in
I
Montreal."
guarantee you, I'm good to go now.
I
Well-
don't know, man. You guys know how I think about it. It's 3 weeks. It's a grind. You know,
I totally agree, Jamie. If I
it's-
just got punted from the NHL playoffs, I'm like,
Okay, but that's fine. But I think a big reason why Suzuki wasn't on the Four Nations was because he kept saying no, and
Well,
the program.
hey, well,
it's
if
a
you
big
want to leave a
program.
good player off, then leave him off.
But
then.
that would be the arrogance of Hockey Canada, because if you want him on the Olympic team this year, and because he didn't go to the Tournament of Losers at the end of the season,
He's never been to any of them. though.
well, but it doesn't matter. If is he good enough to play in the Olympic team next year? Do you
Yes,
think
he should be, of course.
Then it
Is-
doesn't
is
matter.
Nathan
if he goes
McKinnon?
To, yes.
Okay,
But Nathan
well, he's
McKinnon
over
just
there.
had his heart broken. I think he was in the long, and he talked to his buddy Sid, and he goes, "Okay, when are you going to be back in Nova Scotia?" And he goes, "Oh, I'll be back after the World Championship."
All right.
Okay, I'll meet you over there. Like those are three buddies that are going. Like Sid and
I
Fleury
understand
and-
that, but maybe you want to be buddies with the guys who kind of run the room when you
I
go to
just-
the Olympic Games.
I think guys like
It's their
people
call, I'm
don't
just
realize
saying.
how hard an NHL season is of a grind, and then you're going to go over and play 3 more weeks and for nothing. Like
But I think two things can be true at the same time. I think players have every right to do that. I think you're 100% right for whatever reason. If physically they're not up to it. But I do think that if you're a fringe player and you don't go, then if that factors into you not making the team, if there's a decision to be made between you and some other guy and the other guy's always answered the call, then you have to accept the fact that that might have cost you going.
Well, then shame on management for Team Canada to being arrogant enough to not taking that guy when he can make your team better. If Nick Suzuki doesn't make the team,
Okay, but I was
because they've
just
got to
saying if
pick
it's a
up-
decision between Nick Suzuki and some other guy that's almost equal, and he's always answered
Travis
the call,
Konecny.
then
You know, Travis
Suzuki's
Konecny
a
goes-
better player. So I would say Suzuki's a better player, but Konechny's there. Like he's over
I
there
guess
playing.
my point is like Doug Armstrong and those guys. They're smart enough to go with the best team, not a guy who he was banged up and he needed 3 weeks off at the end of the season.
I think that should be the case. I'm not convinced it always is the case.
Well, we heard
And-
whispers that Suzuki didn't make the Four Nations because he didn't go last year.
Or it was something that was considered anyway.
Right.
And let's face it, again, when they announced the team, he wasn't rocking the way he was in the second half.
Exactly.
Right. Like Suzuki had a great second half. But
Right.
there is a difference between McDavid saying sorry, but
Right.
thanks, but no thanks, and maybe the fourth line center. That's the point, I think, is if you're like Bedard, I don't think is even in the running. I think he's had a really tough couple of years in the league, and it's just like, I can't speak
need
for
a
him.
reset.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, I just got to get away from the sport here. And he knows he's not going to be on the Olympic team. It's not going to happen. Suzuki, based on merit and the way he played in the second half, should absolutely be on that team.
Right.
Well, wait a second. What if Bedard comes
Yeah, what
out?
if he has
What if
30
he comes
goals
out
by
and lights it
Christmas?
up?
I don't think I don't see him making the team, personally.
What if he went to the Worlds this year and got to play with
Okay?
one of those
but
guys?
we have the answer.
and-
He's not doing that by all accounts.
Well, I'm just saying.
But if he went to the Worlds and
I
had
don't
a
know,
great
man.
I think you're
tournament,
probably right that he's on the outside right now for the Olympic team. That
I think he's
Celebrini
not
might
at the
be ahead of
Worlds
him, but-
because he went last year and he didn't hardly play it, and they were like,
Yeah, but you
Well-
can't. If that's the reason, that's going to get you in trouble if you do that.
Oh,
after one-
exactly.
one
That's a
year.
good point about Celebrini, though. He was looking 24 hours ago. He was the first line center,
Yeah.
and now McKinnon and Sid are over there. He's like, great. Where am I
great.
playing?
But
Like, thanks,
I on
Sid.
left wing now?
He might be playing left wing. He might.
listen,
but if
it
I'm
was-
him, I would want that. You tell me I can play left wing with Sid for 3 weeks. I am pouncing at that option.
you got to have somebody on the second line.
The
for crying out loud.
remember they won in Riga. I only know this because I've written it in the new book, and that year was in the middle of COVID. So imagine these guys. That was after the Canadian Division thing.
Mm-hmm.
They asked these guys to go. Here's the deal, guys. You're going to Riga, Latvia for the World, so you're going to be there for 3 weeks. When you arrive, you have to spend 4 days in your hotel room. And we're not leaving the hotel. We have a room in the basement with like pinball machines and stuff. That's it. That team, if you look at that roster, there was like Connor Brown and Mangiapane ended up being a hero.
Paul.
He came over late.
Yeah,
Nick Paul.
right.
They were the heroes, right? And they lost the first 3 games. And these guys were so miserable. They're all sitting there going, "What the heck have we done here?"
Mm-hmm.
And they come back and win gold and have the memory of a lifetime, right? So, but that was one where nobody said yes, basically, because it looked like hell.
That
The one
circumstance.
advertisement for the Worlds is go to Prague,
Have a
have
great
some fun
time
with
in
the
Europe.
boys, then bring the family over after a
Yep.
week, have an extended vacation, and so that was the hardest draw ever for
That
the
would
World
be tough.
Championships, and somehow
It is.
these guys got the memory of a lifetime, right?
It's hard, and you're right. Like with the Olympics down around the corner, this is the preempt. Like this is the the Four Nations face-off. Whatever it was, it ended up being a fantastic tournament. It wasn't. Before the tournament, we're all going, "What the hell is this going to look like?"
Right, but it ended up
It
mattering
ended
once
up
it happened.
being great. I just think that it would be. I would look at it in both sense, and you said it could be on both sides. But shame on Hockey Canada if they don't take the best players available. If they're
That's
going to be
fair.
that
That's
petty,
the way it should be.
That's fair.
That's the
if
way
they're
it
going to be
should be.
petty that you didn't do something at the end of the season when you just played 82 games, and Suzuki had a great season.
Yep.
If he chooses not to because his groins are sore, he's got a bad sore back or something, or he just wants to spend time with his buddies, he should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
obligated to do that.
No, you're not obligated to go.
Like
Did
Now-
you guys ever go?
I was in. There was one time I was like they asked.
He's
and I
got
was like,
Suzuki'd like
no,
5
I was
times.
Like, I did. Why would I go over there?
I gotta
for 3
talk to the
weeks?
Wait a second.
trainers.
Did you ever say no? Oh,
I said no. I think 4 times, 5 times.
No, your trainers said no. The medical team. That's the play.
You had
Just say
you had
I never
something?
got the green light.
No.
I honestly when I get eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, I'm not going anywhere, man. I'm sorry. And I had to say no to Lanny McDonald. He's like, "Come on, man. I need we'll fly first class. Me and you. We'll have some beers on the plane." I go, "Lanny, I'm sorry, man. I love you. I ain't going."
Yeah. I have a tip in the ground tomorrow morning at 7:40
You would have had a
a.m.
tea
Eastern
time.
time.
Well, all the stories I've ever heard was guys are just over there and they're crushed and they're hammered. It's not like it was
Yeah.
very serious back in that day. So
Right.
I'm like, thanks, but no
It's a little
thanks.
different back then. I think it's a lot different nowadays. Put it that way.
Quickly here, before we get you out of here, the draft lottery is tonight. Which team in the lottery, if they win, causes the biggest reaction? So it's San Jose, Chicago, Nashville, Philly, Boston. Those are the top 5. Then Seattle, Buffalo, Anaheim, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, the Rangers.
probably the biggest reactions. Pitt, maybe, or
You think
Boston.
Pitt? I feel like
Boston is
Boston
Pitt.
bottoming out and then getting the first pick overall would be crazy, considering they've been so good for so long.
Most exciting for me would be San Jose or Chicago
Because of the
they've already
youth
got
they
pieces.
have and-
They got pieces that now you add another player in there. Now you're
Guys,
kind of
there's
off
so
to the
many
races.
players away, though. It's not even.
Nashville would be interesting.
How about the Rangers at 11? You imagine Mike Sullivan walks up there day 1 with the first overall pick? That would be sick.
Yeah. What about your Buffalo Sabres?
They deserve it, man.
I would love
Get
to see
another
that.
good young defenseman in there.
I love the idea of Schaefer being added to that group.
Yeah.
I love that idea. All right.
I don't know. I mean, you can make a case for everything. Boston would be cool.
Well, cool is a stretch. I don't. I mean, they've had
Yeah,
they
that's
had
the
one.
wrong word.
They had a bad second half,
Yeah.
and if they end up winning, like they had an awful second half to get
And-
there.
but
they
they-
were in the playoffs like 4 months ago.
But they did that again, like strategic.
Beautiful
We
bottom
used to do
out.
that thing when we had the rights. We did about 8 lotteries in a row during that span when Edmonton won 4 out of 5 years.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah.
3 out of 4 years, and it almost got who was it? Steve Tambolini.
Got awkward. Like he
It
would
got
get up there.
awkward. Like he
Yeah.
would win the draft lottery and go, sorry.
Like, hey, there you are, Steve. Not you
and
again.
I'd have to go over an interview and be like,
Who are
we
you
won
going to
again?
take? Yeah. Well, then they finally won it, and he wasn't
Looks
even
like
there.
Neil Yakupov this year.
You get McDavid, and there's Peter Chiarelli.
standing there.
That one stings for Steve Tampolini. All right, JD. O-Dog,
Be fun
catch
tonight.
you guys on the panel. It's going to be a fun one tonight. Yep, full breakdown after the game, right? On
Yeah,
SportsCenter,
Hot Zone.
YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube, too.
The Hot Zone,
Yeah, he's
YouTube.
O-Dog is he's a creator now, a content creator on YouTube.
Content creator, I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, we'll catch that on the TSN YouTube page. All right, boys, enjoy yourselves. All right, Chris Johnston coming up from the rink. Jimmy Ralph as well in about an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, TSN 1050 is giving away tickets to the Leafs and Panthers in round 2 down at Scotiabank Arena, and all you have to do is listen to us on the iHeartRadio app for your chance to win them. To enter, download the iHeartRadio app, create an account, and listen to TSN 1050 for at least 15 minutes straight. You can enter twice per day, so listen to First Up and Overdrive, and the more times you listen, the better your chances of winning. First Up, we'll be calling our Game 2 winner Wednesday morning, so don't make plans for Game 2 on Wednesday night. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. That's game 1, 2, 3, 4. No Saturday nights in the second round.
Yeah.
Which I found a little bit interesting.
Listen, you got to line it up and play, and the league is playing every second night, and I do think it's good they start right away. To get the lone Monday night, right? It's the only team or only
no one
series
else is
going,
playing.
right? So,
no one else is playing tonight.
But Wednesday that Dallas Winnipeg series joins because they just finished yesterday. I thought they would start Tuesday. I actually thought it would be a quick turnaround, but
yeah, I guess you're trying to jockey Edmonton, Winnipeg because they're both in the West and they're both going to have later games, and that's really what it comes down to because Edmonton, Vegas will start on Tuesday. But yeah, I like it. Like if you're the Leafs, take advantage of it, man. You're the only team in town, man. You're the only team going. You're the only game going right now in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. And, Mitch Marner, you talk about a guy who's like on top of the world right now.
Yeah.
His birthday today. He and his wife had a son yesterday. Now he's playing tonight. I thought he had a great line. He's like, my kid was smart enough to know don't show up on a game day.
Yeah.
Because you never know. And he's like, we didn't know. How would you know? You got a 2-week window there, 3-week window where you're like, anything could happen.
That's good.
And it all worked out. Now he's, missed practice yesterday, was out skating today, and he's going to be at the forefront of everything like he always is.
Well, he will be. And he has to be. That's the truth of the matter is that, he's going to be a big part of this series. Positive, negative, he's going to be front and center. Him and Austin Matthews, Willie, John Tavares, Morgan Riley, but then it'll be supporting cast. Like game 1 is, feeling out the series, feeling out, what they like to do, tendencies and all that. But then it's adjustments. It's how are we going to adjust the lineup, systems, penalty kill, power play, all of these types of things, because that's what you've seen. Like watching that Colorado Dallas series, it was fascinating to see. There was adjustments right through, and obviously there's injuries and inconsistencies and goalies. Like there were some lopsided games in there where it's like goalie's coming out because we're losing this game. We're going to save him for next game, and it happened. Blackwood got pulled, Ottinger got pulled. There's all sorts of things that you might see, and I'm expecting a long series. You might see a lot of different things happen, unfold.
Well, and the Stolarz element, Joseph Wall is always there in the background. He hasn't played in weeks.
Yep.
Bobrovsky, there's no discussion. Unless there's an injury, no one else is playing.
Yeah, Vanacek is there too. He's there.
But he's never going to play. Like the Leafs could score 7 on 7 shots tonight. Bob gets pulled. He's playing game 2.
Oh, 100%.
Like nothing is going to change that. Yeah. I don't think anything that Stolarz does tonight would lead to Wall playing game 2. I think you got to commit to Stolarz here unless something crazy happens, which obviously if it does, you're in big, big trouble.
No, I agree.
You're talking Joseph Wall in any capacity, that's big trouble. Like I understood why he was hovering around the first round because Stolarz didn't have playoff experience.
Right.
Because he was playing more than he was used to playing. Joseph Wall, when he did get inserted into series in the last couple of years, he played really, really well. He played against Florida to end the series 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think now that Stolarz has his feet wet, for me, that's very significant. Right. Him getting his first playoff series win is huge. Like I think that checks a big box in terms of pushing Joseph Wall even further into the background.
Well, playing 6 games in condensed time. He hadn't done that.
And
He'd
overtime games.
And to me, that's, the overtime, that wasn't, they were quick.
Right.
You added,
the first 2 were,
you added a few 6 minutes or whatever. Yeah, you're right. But you're right. Like there's a few things that have to check off for him. The biggest concern for him was not lack of experience, but lack of, back-to-back games. There's never going to play back-to-back in the playoffs, but you're playing every second day. It's tough to do. It's tough to
a lot of energy,
get
man.
to fire up the body again, fire up that, and that's where he was able to push through. And now we'll see what he's got. It's going to be a little different series. He's familiar. I will think it's a bit weird for him, and what I mean by this, playing against your former team, you got friends on that other. We saw the Cousins gate or whatever. They're buddies, but like. This is a guy that won the Stanley Cup with those guys last year and went through, ups and downs, spent a lot of time with them. It's on a one-off, you're playing Nick Cousins. This is the guys like that you were with and won a cup with. It might be a bit weird for him, and he's going to have to block that out and go, I don't care that I won a cup with Matthew Tkachuk. He's going to try and chop my hand off if I put my...
And you got to treat him like Ridley Gregg if he does.
Right.
Like you got to be ready to chop broccoli.
Yep.
Right? Like, because I think that was a significant, moment within that series where he was like, I'm a big dude, and if you come close to me, it's trouble for you. Yeah. And that's what he represents. He's a massive, massive goalie. He's huge. He's a daunting goalie. Like, if you look at him, like, he takes up a lot of net, and if he plays with intensity and he plays a little bit mean, I think that goes a long way.
Well, they know him. That's the thing, and they'll know. He's going to know what they're going to try and do, and they'll know what he's going to counter with. So it's a fascinating case study.
Yes.
Like Oliver Ekman-Larsson will know, like, hey, this guy's like to do this stuff. And he's kind of sneaky, gray area guy.
And he's got to do that even more this series.
He's got to do that. And Lorentz is Lorentz. He's a straight line guy and fourth line guy.
But is big and can play physically.
Right.
At times, he's not nasty. He's not like push it over the line. But he is a guy that he's big enough to play with some physicality.
Yeah.
But, I look at, this series and from a Leaf perspective, like trying to spin positives. We all know what Florida's going to represent.
Right.
But I think if you're the Leafs, I have said this before, that Florida has played a lot of hockey the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I get Tkachuk didn't play a ton down the stretch. I don't know if he's at 100% or not. Like I'm not convinced he is at 100%. That's something maybe you can lean into. Yes, Marchand took some time off down the stretch and all that kind of stuff. Ekblad not playing tonight, and he was suspended. But fumes can show up at any time, and then it's on you to expose them.
Right.
Like a crafty team may be able to get through that, but if they show any inkling of like, okay, we've played a lot of hockey, we're running out of steam here, the willpower's not necessarily there, you got to manipulate that, man.
Yeah.
You've got it, because there's no reason. Both teams are hungry. Florida, once you get a taste of it, you really want it, and they know what they do. They have the winning formula. Like, over the last 2 years, only Vegas has beaten them, and it was in the Cup final. But the Leafs, like, there's no excuse for them not to be as hungry, if not significantly more hungry. So show up and lean on them and hope that those fumes show up this series. Because I would not be surprised at all if they did at some point in the next month and a half.
Yeah,
it just runs out of steam for you.
Yeah, or you just run into a team that has hot goalie or hot scorers, you name it. Like, that's the beauty of these games. You don't know when it's going to end, as far as when a team just outperforms.
Just don't have it.
Yeah, you don't have it, or beats you 4 out of 7. That's really, you got to find a way, and that's the game within the game. Tonight, like I say, I'm fascinated to see how it's going to unfold and how the storylines go, because pretty much know. And Vasilevsky said it in his post game media. He said that team very consistent, kind of know how they're going to play.
Yeah. Florida, we can probably map it out.
See how the Leafs are going to play that.
Why I feel optimistic about how the Leafs are built this year compared to 2 years ago. I would look at the 3 D pairings and say I have not been this comfortable with basically any matchup. And obviously, you still want to set up Tanev and McCabe against probably the Barkov line, I would think.
Right.
And maybe you want to avoid Morgan Riley in certain areas. But I think the 3 D pairings they have, healthy and really consistent. They didn't get overplayed in the first round.
Right.
That is probably the biggest boost in my confidence in terms of the ability for this Leaf team to beat this Panther team compared to what we saw 2 years ago. Where 2 years ago it was, Timothy Liljegren's out there, and you've got, there's I think Joel Edmondson, was that 2 years ago? I think it might have been. Maybe it was last year. But again, good players. It's not that these guys can't play, but I look at it right now, like Ekman-Larsson and Benoit, they were a great pairing in the first round.
They were good.
Like, you don't want to overexpose them. At some point that can bend, go from bending to breaking. But if I'm Craig Berube, I feel comfortable with the 3 deep pairings I have.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big boost for the league.
Well, and on home ice, you can manage that if you feel like the one thing, Florida's forecheck is
they'll take a piece.
relentless. And that's the one thing when it comes to the D, they've got to find a way to move the puck quick because that's, they don't have guys who handle the puck overly. Like it's Morgan who can skate it out. Everyone else is, Carlo, it's just a chip. It's McCabe is a chip. Like these guys are, they can absorb contact and they got to move the puck and get it out. That would be the biggest thing that I would look for because if you, analytics, I don't want to bring all the numbers in, but Florida was the team that dumped the puck the most in the National Hockey League, but they're really good on puck recovery. So they dump it with a purpose, they're physical, and they support it. So if you're Berube and the coaches, how do you counter that? Well, you got to move the puck quick. You have to have support. And that's the biggest challenge. So Benoit, great first round. You got to flush it because it's going to be a lot different. You're going to feel a lot of pressure. Can you handle the puck, take a hit, and move the puck? Carlo, those type of guys.
And like Benoit was making plays with the puck, which was something that probably stood out more than anything.
We haven't seen that.
No, like legitimately like leading rushes, and you're like, where is this coming from? And it worked against Ottawa. Again, it may not necessarily against Florida, but what he can consistently do is hit everything in sight, block every shot you possibly can, and then the rest is probably gravy. Right. If you get anything else from Benoit, you'll love it. But really what you want out of him is give me 17, 18 minutes, hit everything in sight, block shots, and don't ever back down. If you're in it with Matthew Tkachuk and he wants to go out, get the coincidental penalty every single time. He punches you bury him, and then look at the refs and say both.
Yep.
That's got to be the game plan every single time. All right, Chris Johnston from the rink ahead of Game 1 tonight. Jim Ralph coming up in about 45 minutes as well. We've got our best bets powered by FanDuel. Jays are off. They're in Anaheim starting tomorrow night. We've got a couple of games in the NBA playoffs as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Chris Johnston coming up. Jimmy Ralph as well. We got the draft lottery tonight right into Game 1. Leafs Panthers. No Jays tonight. Jays dropping 2 of 3 over the weekend. It's just
2 under 500 now again.
Yeah, it's not good. Like the Bats, they had some moments to really break the game loose, and they just don't hit for power. They just don't have it. And now there's a lot of concerns about Scherzer. He's been placed on the 60-day IL, which is retroactive. The hope is by the end of the month maybe he returns. I'm not holding my breath on
like
that.
Chirping the ump though.
Yeah, do you see him doing the coin toss flip thing? I mean, that's kind of, I hear you. You're a lifer and you're a Hall of Famer, but dude, you've pitched 2 innings this year.
Right.
And the team stinks, and, I don't think it's going to help the reputation of the Blue Jays.
Right. Like,
it was kind of funny, but
I thought it was funny, but he did it like a lot.
Yeah, he was going on a lot. Like, there's a long history with that ump. That he's a lifer. He's been around for a long time. I would assume Scherzer has had personal issues with him in the past.
For sure.
Was it? Yeah, I think it was Buckner. Was it? Or I believe it was. Yeah, it was Buckner, and he's a pretty famous ump. But
yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Like, that's what you're famous for now as a Blue Jay, is kind of mocking the ump and flipping the coin and closing your eyes because you haven't done anything on the mound.
No, he's been hurt.
Yeah, you've been hurt.
You know what he's good at is self-diagnosis.
He figured that out. Thumb.
Yep.
Connected to the wrist bone. Yeah, it just went on and on and on. And Bowden Francis is getting lit up. And the other, the 3 starters they're fine. They're okay. They're not. There's no one's going to win a Cy Young in that group, but it's concerning. Now, what the glass half full is that the American League and the American League East is really not doing much. There's not much going on, so you're still in the hunt, but
not running away. Like nobody's running
away. No one is overly concerned about anyone running away right now, but it's ugly baseball, man. It's the same kind of issue. Yankees are okay, but Yankees aren't, like, Judge is putting up numbers that are absurd, man. Right. Like, he's getting better.
It's crazy.
Every year he gets better somehow. Like, he hit 62 home runs a couple years ago.
And he wasn't using those paddle bats or whatever either.
He wasn't using the turbo bats or anything, man. Yeah. His numbers are absurd. Like, the numbers he is putting up are crazy.
Yeah.
So shout out to Aaron Judge, but the rest of the Yankee team is not overly impressive, and the rest of the American League is not overly impressive.
No, a lot of 500 or below 500.
Yeah, exactly. Like, everyone just kind of plugging along, and the Jays are right in the midst of that. All right, final hour coming up. So shout out to the RBC Canadian Open. Big day. They announced Max Homa's coming up this year. Wyndham Clark's coming up. Justin Rose, Shane Lowry.
Some big names.
Those are big names. Rory's going to be there. All the Canadians are going to be there. So that's big. Shout out to the RBC Canadian Open. We're less than a month. We'll be up there. Yep. Right? We're going to be up there doing our thing.
Lawrence Applebaum.
Lawrence will be up there doing his thing. You know, he's going to ask you to play golf.
Yep.
That's his thing. Are you coming out to play this year? Then you're going to say no, and then he's going to chirp, and that's how we operate every single year.
That's our routine.
That's our routine. Yeah. That's what we will be doing in about a month up at TPC Toronto. But wanted to get that in. Shout out and get your tickets. Get up there. We'll be up there, the OverDrive crew. Morning, guys. Golf Talk Canada. We're all going to be up there all week. It's going to be a great week. All right. Game 1 tonight. We'll tee it up. CJ will join us from the rink. Jimmy Ralph coming up from the rink. Game 1. We charge towards it. You can hear right here on TSN Radio. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.